What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dirty Bird Fly Through. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, remember to share out. We're going to talk about the Falcons traveling overseas. Top of the morning on Sunday morning, 9:30 kickoff from Berlin. The Falcons taking on the Indianapolis Colts, the 7-2 Indianapolis Colts, who have been one of the best teams, definitely the surprise team so far in the NFL this season. So, obviously, the Falcons just looking to get back in the win column at this point. I mean, I think you can just at this point forget playoffs, forget any of that. Falcons are just looking to get another win. We haven't gotten a win, and we're approaching almost a month since we got our last win, which was against the Bills. So, listen, it's you got to get it done eventually. And, there's only so many more opportunities to, get a win, just to, I think, forget playoffs or any of that, but to really save some morale, of this team and of the fans. And a lot of fans have already sold out on this team. But, for those that, are still watching, you got to win for them. And you got to show them something. And you got to get the results done. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And first and foremost, let's talk about the injury report. And there's a lot of injuries on both sides for the Falcons. Obviously, last week versus the Patriots, two very key injuries on the offensive line with Chris Lindstrom and Matthew Bergeron. It looks like Chris Lindstrom did avoid a major injury. He didn't practice on Wednesday, but he did return to some practice on Thursday. So that is a good sign that it is at least not a long-term injury. The fact that he's practicing, but Matthew Bergeron, on the other hand, he is not practicing, and he's not going to be playing on Sunday. Billy Bowman, he has returned to practice. It looks like he is on pace to play his first game since I want to say before the bye week. Against Washington was the last game that Billy Bowman played. So you definitely want to see him out there. We saw a lot of promise from him. And then, so just some other guys. Zach Harrison, obviously, he looks to be on track to returning. Jesse Bates, he still is dealing with a knee injury. But, overall, the Falcons getting a little healthier. The one story is that offensive lineman Storm Norton, he did have a setback, which, when did this setback occur? How did it occur? Who knows? We know the Falcons are not transparent about injuries, but still, it's looking less and less likely that we're going to see Storm Norton this season. So it's gonna continue. It's gonna continue to be Elijah Wilkinson. Now, as far as the Colts go, they got some big names also. The most notable being DeForest Buckner, their star defensive lineman. He is out for the game. You want to talk? You want to talk about a big development? You want to talk about a big advantage? DeForest Buckner being out is absolutely a huge advantage for the Falcons to be able to dominate this game with their rushing attack. Some other names, Samson Ebukam. He did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday, so he could also be out. Michael Pittman, he is on the injury report, but it looks like he, is on pace to play. Now, the big name, the name that the Colts just made the big acquisition for, Sauce Gardner, the all-pro cornerback, he is on the injury report with a concussion, but he has been practicing, and he's on pace to make his debut with the Colts this Sunday. So he's going to be out there matching up against Drake London, and it's going to be a very interesting matchup to watch. Now, obviously, traveling overseas is something that the Falcons have gotten accustomed to over the past few years. The Falcons have traveled overseas. It feels like every other year. Their first time traveling overseas was in 2014 when they faced the Lions in London, and I think that was a game where the Falcons, they went up 21 to nothing. They ended up losing in Falcons fashion. In 2021, the Falcons traveled back to London. They faced the Jets. They ended up winning 27-20. And then the last time the Falcons have traveled overseas was in 2023 to London. Also, they faced the Jaguars. They ended up losing. So this is the Falcons' first time traveling overseas to somewhere that is not London for a regular season game. And look, it's a different experience, but it's an experience you got to become more accustomed to. The NFL is dipping more heavy into the international market. We see that they are making a bigger push for international viewership, international players. So it would not shock me if this becomes more of a commonality with the Falcons traveling overseas. But it's been an every other year thing. So the Falcons, they should be used to playing overseas a little bit at this point. The Colts actually, this is not going to be their first game in Germany, I believe. I believe they have already played a game in Germany a couple years ago against I want to say the Patriots, and I believe they won that game. So the Colts are obviously more familiar with playing in Germany under Shane Steichen. The Falcons with Raheem Morris have never played overseas. I would hope that the team is getting there right now, because if Raheem Morris tries to play it like a genius, which I have a bad feeling he might, and try to get out there as late as possible, this team is not the LA Rams. They'll be dealing with major jet lag. They're gonna come out looking like they're dealing with bubble guts, and they're gonna get their butts kicked in. So you got to get out there as soon as possible. Now, taking a look further into the game and the team that the Falcons are facing, which is obviously a Colts team that has been surging this entire season. Daniel Jones has turned into Indiana Jones. He has been one of the big stories, one of the big comeback stories in the NFL. It looked like his career was essentially over, but he went to the Colts. It's a great situation for him. And obviously, Jonathan Taylor, who is an MVP candidate at this point in time. That offense has done absolutely amazing with Michael Pittman, with the rookie tight end Tyler Warren. There's a lot of weapons there for the Colts, but it starts with getting Jonathan Taylor going. Kind of sounds a little similar to the Falcons with Bijan Robinson. The only difference is the Colts are able to consistently get their running game going, whereas the Falcons have had troubles with that consistency. The Colts also have made a lot of news because of their new ownership. Carly Ursay Gordon took over after the late great Jim Irsay died, and she's been doing an amazing job with that team. So, yeah, she's definitely one to not be messed with and one to never count out. We're learning that very quickly. But listen, this Colts team, they've been playing amazing. They've been winning games. They're sitting atop the AFC right now. They are coming off a loss though. So they're going to be looking to bounce back. And this is really that point in the year that you really start to actually see how legit teams are. And the Colts are trying to make that statement that they are a legit team. Now, as far as the Falcons do go, you want to see this Falcons team build off the little bit of momentum you saw last week in the Patriots game. The Falcons, they had many opportunities in Foxborough. They couldn't come away with the win. If the Falcons are going to win this game versus the Colts, you have to build off that momentum. And you have to actually add more layers to the offense. That obviously means keep Drake London going. Keep getting him the ball. Spread that ball around more. Because it can't just be the Drake London show receiving. You have to have true balance. And the Falcons have that ability whenever everyone is going that you can't stop them all. Someone is going to be open. That is how this offense should be, but it obviously has not been the case because mainly play calling. But you did see, even though there were definitely still some questionable decisions against the Patriots with play calling and decision making, it did feel like you saw a little bit of growth. And you saw a little bit more aggressiveness. So look, if you're going to have any chance to win versus the Colts, you're going to have to continue building off of that. You're going to have to stay aggressive. And you're going to have to give your playmakers shots to make those big plays like you saw last week with Drake London. He made those big catches. He had the 3 touchdowns. You're going to have to see more of that. Now, this is going to be a game that, kind of like the San Francisco game in an instance, it's a battle of two great running backs. Bijan and then obviously Jonathan Taylor. These are two guys that they're absolute beasts. They are the best at their position. They're at the top of their position. They are two guys that, without a doubt, are the most electric players on their offense. And this is really going to be a game that I think, especially for the Falcons, you're going to have to get Bijan Robinson going if you want a chance to win this game. Because there's a stat out there that whenever Bijan Robinson, I believe he rushes for over 80 yards, the Falcons, I want to say, are 3-0. When he rushes for less than 80 yards, the Falcons are 0-5. So, and I would want to check and make sure that that stat is accurate, but it does sound about right. And look, at the end of the day, great teams have to find ways to win, but there's no doubt that this Falcons team is most dangerous when Bijan Robinson is fully going. So, you have to get Bijan going, and you cannot overcomplicate it. You got to hand the ball off to Bijan. Even if you see Bijan getting, maybe some shorter carries earlier in the game, eventually we see with Bijan that's going to turn into a 5-6 yard carry. Then it turns into a 10-20 yard carry. That's just the type of running back that Bijan is. He wears you down because you don't know what direction, especially later on in the game, he is going to turn. You don't know how he's going to make you miss. So you got to stay consistent with the run game. If the run game is really something you want to get going, I talked about it last week and you didn't do it. You did not run the ball consistently. And that is still a good bit of the reason why you lost, because you were not able to take control of that game early. If you're going to win this game, you have to take control of it early. Now, look, for the Falcons, it's been a 3-game losing streak, as I said. The question is, when will losing end? And I really think that's a point that we're at, where we just want to win another game. You just want to win another game. You want to know once again what a win feels like. And, I will say that I feel like, I know I said you could forget the playoff conversation because that's not even really what I'm concerned about. But even just for the morale of the fans, there's a very big difference between coming back home 3-6 and then coming back home 4-5. There's a very big difference, especially when you look at the Falcons' schedule after this. But, still, this is a must-win game. If you're focused on the playoffs, sure, but mainly you just want to get another win at this point. You want to get another win, and we need to see the Falcons win, and then we need to see them build off of wins. But the first step is getting a win, and the question is, when are the Falcons going to do that? Is it going to be this Sunday in Berlin? Are they going to be able to upset the Colts? Well, there's some things that the Falcons are going to have to do for that to happen, but the Falcons do have a chance to do that. But before we get into that, I do want to get into the player to watch for both teams. And for the Falcons, it's going to be a guy who has earned more reps as of recently. It's Ronnie Harrison Jr., and with the injury to Divine Diablo, it presented an opportunity at the linebacker position. We saw J.D. Bertrand get a crack at it. He absolutely failed. So now we see a Ronnie Harrison step in, who last game versus the Patriots, he had some impressive hits. He was around the field, and he was making the most of his opportunity and really shoring up where J.D. Bertrand was just a sore thumb sticking out. And we clearly see that holds the defense back when J.D. Bertrand is out there making mistakes, because that is such a critical part of this defense, is the middle of it and how the middle of that field is patrolled. So having a Ronnie Harrison out there, a guy that can patrol the middle of the field better, it's kind of a similar situation in a way to a Divine Diablo. He was a safety, converted to a linebacker. He actually played for the Colts previously. So these are the types of guys that Jeff Ulbrich, he has a nod for. He likes to work with these guys that can be versatile, these Divine Diablos and these Rodney Harrison. So this could definitely be more of a quality fit in this Falcons defense to really get them back to how they were playing against the Bills. Now, for the Colts, it's going to be the guy they just acquired. It's going to be Sauce Gardner. He is the guy to watch. It's going to be interesting to see how he looks in his first game as a Colt. And obviously, he has a very big task locking up Drake London, who, when Drake London has played in his last couple games, with the exception of the San Francisco 49ers game, has had 100 yards in each of his games. He had 3 touchdowns versus the Patriots. So everyone is talking about how Sauce Gardner is going to be a handful for Drake London. I think of it as Drake London's going to be a handful for Sauce Gardner. But you know what? It's going to create great TV, going to be a great matchup. It's going to be one of those 50-50 things. It's going to be really interesting to see, but could be one of those things where, does Sauce Gardner, still adjusting to a new city? And he really hasn't fully settled into Indianapolis yet. He's probably still looking for a place. And he has to go overseas to play his first game as a Colt. So it could be an opportunity for Drake London to catch Sauce Gardner a little off guard. Now, taking a look at the keys to victory. The first key to victory, simple. You got to get ahead early. It was just like last week. The Falcons' slow start ultimately did end up coming back to bite them. Even though the defense held that New England offense to 3 points the whole second half, and they did play relatively well, still, the Falcons, they fell down early, and the offense really looked lifeless the whole first half. So you're going to have to come out. You're gonna have to get a rhythm going early. And that's the way you're gonna have to go. If you want to win this game, you got to get up on this team early. It's what the Steelers did. It's what the Rams did. When the Colts have lost twice this year, it is what those teams have done. They've gotten up on the Colts early and they've gotten an upper hand on them. So these international games, they can go any way, but you got to get ahead early. Second, you got to load the box. You got to continue bringing the pressure. As I talked about, the Colts, Jonathan Taylor is one of the best running backs in the league. And he could kill you one way or another, but you have to pull out all the stops to be able to stop him. But something very interesting. Daniel Jones has been a very good quarterback when he has time to sit back and make decisions. When you bring the pressure to Daniel Jones, it creates a Daniel Jones we have almost seen in a way with the Giants, when he looks kind of rattled still, and there are still some raw aspects to his game. And I will say this Falcons defense might be the best defense the Colts have faced all year. When you look at it, them and the Broncos defense probably, but even the Denver defense has been shaky, and the Falcons defense has not been perfect. But this has been one of the best defenses the Colts will face all year. And when you put it overseas, at the end of the day, it's a neutral site game. Neither team really has a home field advantage, so this could be an opportunity for the defense to come out and make some plays, but it's going to be absolutely critical if you want to win. And then third and foremost, you got to cut out the simple mistakes. You cannot have intentional groundings. You cannot have poor clock management, because that is what has killed the Falcons this season in so many instances. It has been stupid, simple mistakes that falls on coaching. And listen, if you bring that out, you bring out the same BS that you have done here on the mainland overseas, it's going to be a rough day out there, and we woke up at 9:30 a.m. to watch All for Nothing. With that being said, my predictions for this game, how do I think this game pans out? And I'm going to be honest, I do think the Falcons have a chance to win this game, and I feel more confident about this game than I actually did last game versus New England. Just because I feel like there's a lot of things that makes this game more 50-50. It being overseas. having, some of those factors. Obviously, the Colts at this point, this is really that point where are they really as good as their record says they are, or could they be in line for a few losses coming up? But at the same time, for the Falcons, there's been so much inconsistency that it's very hard to actually have belief in this team. So, listen, I think you're gonna see flashes in this game, but in the end, I have to pick the Colts. I feel like the Falcons have a chance to win this game, but you're going to have to come out and you're going to have to be consistent in this one, because if not, then it's going to be another rough day. It's going to be another rough day, and it is going to end in a loss. But anyways, with that being said, appreciate everyone for watching. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, remember to share out, and I will be having a watch party Sunday during the game, so you can come and you can hang out. But anyways, with that being said, I will see you all in the next one.